Story 1. The heart beats continuously for an average of more than 80 years without a single moment of interruption. It is amazing. Story 2. Your stomach contains an acid that is powerful enough to dissolve some metals. Story 3. Our bones can heal themselves, but our teeth cannot. Story 4. Your brain is designed to protect itself at all costs, which is often what eventually kills it. If the brain perceives a threat, it protects itself at the expense of other organs. It will shut down bodily functions in order to preserve itself. Eventually, enough of the body is shut down that it can no longer sustain the brain. Story 5. The human body is so covered with germs, inside and out, that the minute we die we begin to rot. That is because our immune system works tirelessly to keep bacteria at bay. Story 6. In my job, I have learned that the body is marvelously resilient yet incredibly fragile. I know two people who each lost a leg due to nerve damage after relatively simple injuries, such as landing badly and twisting an ankle. Story 7. Heart surgery on a baby. Anyone, really? My daughter had heart surgery at 4 months old, and it's mind-boggling to me that they took my tiny, sick baby, stopped her heart and lungs, and then a surgeon took her heart, added a patch with ridiculously fine stitches, put everything back where it belonged, got her heart pumping and her lungs working, and then gave us back a baby who would live. I have a whole group of mom friends from the hospital. The same surgeon has worked on all our children, and I find some kind of magic in knowing this man has literally held all of our children's hearts. He saves a baby's life and then goes to bowling league. Story 8. The fallopian tubes do not directly connect to the ovaries. The ovary simply releases an egg into the abdominal cavity in the hope that the tube will catch it. I do not understand how this became the system that prevailed. Story 9. The human body has about 30 to 40 trillion cells all working in synchrony. Otherwise we would die. Story 10. If our internal temperature changes even a little, we die. Story 11. Pregnancy and childbirth were difficult. My placenta threatened both my baby and me twice, and my pelvis became so stiff that my baby had no room to be delivered. Everyone says nature has a plan, but I am convinced it does not. Story 12. Sharing the air hole with the food hole is a terrible engineering design. Story 13. By age 30, most people have enough spinal degeneration to be visible on magnetic resonance imaging. It always amazes me how much we suffer from back problems because of walking upright. We have not adapted well to upright posture, which also causes other posture-related issues, such as an increased risk of choking. Story 14. People can still live long, healthy lives with full cognitive function despite missing large portions of their brains. Story 15. Hiccuping is the default state of most of the brain. To prevent it from happening constantly, there is a special anti-hiccup module that, if damaged, will leave a person with permanent hiccups. Story 16. What still blows my mind is that someone, at some point, looked at the human body and thought, yeah, let's cut it open and sew it back together while it's alive. Sure, they knew small cuts could heal, but actually opening someone up, removing organs, and stitching them back together? How did that even cross their mind? Story 17. The doctor removed my intestines, untwisted them, and put them back in. Now I'm sore but not on the verge of death. What on earth? Story 18. Humans need to sleep for about a third of their lives, spending that time not contributing to survival and, in prehistoric times, being vulnerable to predators. Story 19. The body's energy is managed by 5 separate components. Peptide hormones. Glucagon and insulin regulate blood glucose by controlling its storage and release into the bloodstream. Enzymes. Hexokinase, phosphofructokinase, and pyruvate kinase regulate key steps in glucose metabolism. These components work in balance to regulate sugar and energy production. Malfunction of any of them can significantly shorten lifespan. The body is essentially a vast chemical factory that follows conditional biochemical rules. Story 20. After having 3 children myself, I have no idea how we are supposed to survive childbirth. Story 21. People who think they are just gaining weight later find out that they have been carrying a 20-pound abdominal tumor or growth filled with blood for 30 to 40 years. Story 22. I flushed around 385 kilograms of pure ethanol through my liver over the last 6 years, and I am still alive. I stopped 86 days ago. My fatty liver has fully healed, and my pancreas works fine again. Story 23. Your eyes have a separate immune system from the rest of your body. If the body recognizes this, it will attack the eyes. Story 24. Until the 1980s, to avoid a cesarean section that might prevent future pregnancies, doctors in Ireland used a chainsaw to break a woman's pelvis to deliver the baby. Story 25. I recently saw a patient in the intensive care unit who was alive despite multiple types of brain bleeding, a hemopneumothorax, and a pelvic fracture resulting from a fall from a great height. I do not think he will regain consciousness because his brain appears severely damaged, but I was amazed he made it to the hospital. Story 26. This is the case of a man who had his mummified twin inside his abdomen for most of his life. Doctors discovered it when he began having symptoms besides an enlarged abdomen, and they removed it. Story 27. The circulation of the heart is very exacting. I do not mean systemic circulation, but the coronary vasculature that supplies the heart muscle with blood. Not to mention the precise electrical conduction of the heart. On the one hand, the heart can compensate for many disruptions to these functions and still keep a person alive. On the other hand, a bout of constipation causing excessive vagal nerve stimulation can be fatal. It is both astonishing and miraculous. Laughing out loud. Story 28. I remember this from medical school. We took microbiology and immunology at the same time, and it was surreal. I would go to immunology lecture and think, how the hell does anyone ever die of infection with a system this powerful protecting us? Then I would go to microbiology lecture and think, how the hell are any of us still alive? I felt the same in embryology. It is so devilishly complicated how the body forms in utero that I marveled that any babies make it to term correctly formed. Story 29. If we count all the cells in your body by number, most are bacteria. If we count by volume, most of the volume is your own body cells. Your immune cells act like a swarm of powerful defenders moving through your blood. They are numerous, and 99.99% of infections are eliminated before you experience the first symptom. Story 30. The stomach gets a new lining every 3 to 4 days because it produces so much acid to digest food that it would actually digest itself if it didn't constantly renew its protective lining. Story 31. Basically all of them. I studied biomedical science at university, and that feeling only gets worse the more you learn. A house of cards made from old nitrocellulose, firing like snooker balls, filled with nitroglycerin, somehow keeps going, building the pyramid. Higher than it falls until a feather lands on top and the cards collapse. The sheer complexity of the brain is striking. There are fewer stars than connections, yet it uses less power than a single light-emitting diode. When the brain goes wrong, it goes spectacularly wrong. Story 32. I'm always telling people the human body is both amazingly fragile and durable. Story 33. The human stomach secretes hydrochloric acid strong enough to dissolve razor blades. Yet the stomach lining regenerates so quickly that we do not digest ourselves. It is like carrying a bag of corrosive acid, but the cells constantly rebuild the lining every few days. Combine that with the fact that our deoxyribonucleic acid is copied across trillions of cells with remarkably few catastrophic errors, and I am amazed any of us survive more than a week. Does anyone else have those "how are we not dead yet" moments when learning about the body? Story 34. The brutality of childbirth is striking. I understand that it is a fine balance between maternal survival and head size, but still, why did we not evolve something better? Story 35. We require sodium to survive, but we do not produce it ourselves. Story 36. Our bodies have about 36 trillion cells, each of which has a chance of becoming cancerous. Yet not everyone develops cancer. Story 37. The human digestive system is relatively primitive compared to other animals. This is why we must eat many different kinds of food, while some animals do not. Story 38. I have a good one from personal experience this past week. The lungs, while normally an incredible organ, have one major design flaw. They respond to copious mucus by triggering coughing to clear it. Repeated coughing irritates the airways and causes epithelial cells to shed. How do you get rid of those shed epithelial cells? By coughing them out, of course. Story 39. You do not need to know or learn anything about the miracles and the intricate mechanics and physics required to stay alive. Moreover, most of this knowledge appears to be accessible only through scientific research. Story 40. This is not a medical fact but a developmental stage, specifically toddlers. I am unsure how any of us survived it, to be honest. They are mad. Story 41. I am way too high to be reading this thread. Like, guys, my eyes are hiding from my body. If we talk about it too much, they'll figure it out. Story 42. I have had 4 strokes and a transient ischemic attack. I relearned to walk twice and to speak once. I remain without a diagnosis. Keep going. Story 43. When a child is delivered by cesarean section, most of the time in the United States, the mother is fully awake during the entire procedure. Layers of skin, muscle, and organ tissue are cut open and pulled aside. People peer into her living insides while talking to her. Her organs pulse and bleed, and she experiences varying levels of sensation and awareness of the proceedings. In some horrible cases of medical error or carelessness, she experiences excruciating pain. I know one person who watched the proceedings through a reflection. She saw inside her own open uterus. I think more men should try to imagine this. I do not know of any other major surgery performed on a conscious person. I cannot imagine asking, for example, people having abdominal tumor removal to remain calm while an entire medical team opens and works on their internal organs for an hour or more. Story 44. Nope. Nice try, hypochondria. I am not reading this thread. Story 45. The human body is a huge design flaw. The skull should protect the brain, but if you trip and bump your head a bit too hard you can die, perhaps not immediately. The eyes are just unprotected jelly beans in front of the body, and a bit of dust or an eyelash can hurt a lot. Anyone who has ridden a bicycle without goggles should not still be able to see. Teeth need regular cleaning, hurt, and can break if you bite something too hard once. You can only lose them once. If you lose them a second time, they are gone. The neck and back can be permanently damaged by sitting or lying wrong for a few hours, turning badly, or lifting something too heavy. Male genitals hang unprotected and can cause faint-inducing pain if bumped. Female genitals are not designed to give birth without tearing, yet that is how our bodies do it. These are just the examples I can think of. Someone should redesign the human body. Story 46. Pregnancy in humans is so wildly inefficient that it makes no sense we have made it this far. Story 47. The openings for breathing and for eating and drinking are separated by a tiny flap and lie next to each other. This is a horrible design. Story 48. Your appendix, whose purpose is not yet fully understood, can burst unexpectedly and may be fatal or cause serious injury. Story 49. The anus is the epicenter of the body. No matter what else is wrong, if the anus and the gut deteriorate, everything else is affected. Story 50. We are not even half human. Human cells make up about 43% of the body's cells. The remaining 57% are bacteria and other microbes. Story 51. Glucose reacts with oxygen to produce energy. Does a reaction with oxygen mean combustion? Story 52. There are thousands of chemical reactions that keep us going. Each cell in our body is a chemistry lab. We are made of chemical reactions. Story 53. The heart. Your life depends on a muscle that contracts with enough force to pump blood to every part of the body. It contracts once every second for several decades without ever resting. If I mimic that motion with my hand, I would struggle to last more than a minute before stopping. It is terrifying. Story 54. I read medical records all day, so I will say this: every part matters. If just one thing were out of whack, we would be a lifeless sack of meat. Story 55. You can bite the inside of your cheek. Biting it causes swelling, which makes it more likely you will bite it again. Each repeat causes more swelling, creating a self-perpetuating cycle. Story 56. We have one barrier protecting our eyes from immune cell invasion. Story 57. The fact that a relatively light blow to the chest at the exact wrong moment can cause your heart to stop beating, resulting in sudden death unless someone performs CPR immediately and gets you medical attention. New fear unlocked. Story 58. Your immune system can wake up one day and decide, in many ways, that it is attacking you and that parts of your body should be destroyed or prevented from functioning properly. Story 59. The humble little epiglottis is the only thing keeping us from choking. Story 60. Human ancestors outpaced other primates because of alcohol dehydrogenase, the enzyme that metabolizes alcohol. Ethanol is poisonous to most species, including humans in large amounts. We became the dominant species in part because we could consume fermented fruit without fatal effects. Story 61. I still don't understand why there is a tube that can handle solids, liquids, and gases, but failure to sort them properly is easily fatal. It is also the only intake tube for major necessary survival processes. Why? Story 62. The absolute shitstorm of things that have to go right in order to conceive. It's a miracle we are not extinct. Story 63. The ridiculous amount of alcohol I drank during coronavirus disease 2019 should not have been possible, even if it had been water. Story 64. I am struck by the sheer helplessness of newborns. It is amazing that the hospital sends you home with these precious yet utterly defenseless beings who require round-the-clock nurturing, and first-time parents have to figure it all out on the fly. Story 65. Correct me if I'm wrong. The eyes have an immune system separate from the rest of the body. Without this, the body would recognize the eyes as a threat and attack them. Story 66. Most of the important structures in your body are not restorable. Mother Nature, I am not asking to regrow an arm, but goddamn, at least let me get some of my ear cells back so I can hear. Story 67. It's not a specific fact, but I'm always amazed that the human body has the resilience of an iPhone. It could fall from a plane and survive, but if it falls at the right angle from a bed, it can break into pieces. Story 68. My dad was born with a hole in his heart. No one knew until he was 18, when he joined the military and was screened. They discovered the condition, he was discharged, and surgery was performed immediately. He is 62 now and still going strong with a healthy heart. Story 69. Every single fucking one of them. It's just an impossible system. Story 70. Cytokine storms occur when the immune system becomes excessively active and can be fatal. Story 71. Gastroschisis is a condition in which a baby is born with the intestines outside the body. I saw this during my nursing school clinical rotation. The baby is placed in a crib with a small hanging basket lined with cheesecloth. Each day the basket is lowered and the intestines are gradually returned to the baby. We do not know what causes it, but we know how to fix it. Much respect to the nurses in the neonatal intensive care unit. Story 72. If your immune system recognizes your eyes as foreign, it may attack them. Ocular immune privilege normally prevents this. Story 73. The mechanism that prevents a mother's immune system from attacking her unborn baby is extremely intricate. Story 74. Your body can adapt to inadequate nutrition and still survive. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.